Excellent. Let's get moving. So welcome everybody. We're back. We're back. Yay! This is Microsoft 365 and Power Platform community call happening every single Tuesday at 8 a.m. Pacific time. Today is September 3rd. We are so excited to be back after a summer break. Within the past years, we had a summer break for 1.5 months. This time, we decided to take it super clear. We'll be out from July to August, end of August as well. And now we're back on the 3rd of September. It feels so long that we've been away from these things. Good to get back online with this call as well. Now, we did execute the other calls normally. So, for example, the Thursday series was meeting every single week throughout the summertime. And we want to keep on doing that in the future as well. So the Thursday series is something where we don't do breaks. This Tuesday call, we will do breaks, and that's mainly because this is for Microsoft presenters. So you're really hearing from those people who are building the capabilities and features and implementing them, the stories behind of the scenes. And those people actually do take some breaks every now and then, so we need to align on those breaks as well. Now, today we're going to start a pretty light, well, not super light, but a light. We're going to, of course, go through the best typical set of slides and typical set of updates, what's happening all around the world, some news, and we have some cool sharing is caring initiatives, which David is going to talk about as well, some updates across the board, some new initiatives, all of that stuff. And then we go to the actual demos of this day. We'll start with Marc Windle, and he's going to talk about getting started with the SharePoint Embedded using updated VSCode extension. It's a really cool VSCode extension, which will help you to succeed with the SharePoint Embedded implementation. And this time, then the second demo will be done by yours truly, and I'm going to talk about introduction on the Viva Connections data visualization components with SPFX. SPFX meaning the SharePoint framework. Might be, if you're not familiar, might be like confused on Microsoft Viva SharePoint framework. Well, SharePoint framework is used much more than just in SharePoint. It's going to be actually used even in Copilot, which is pretty cool. But all of that we're going to cover more detailed within this autumn, within upcoming calls and upcoming plans and demos and all of that stuff. Super cool stuff. But today on my side, I'm going to talk about the SPFX 1.20, which is currently in preview. And there was a really cool Viva Connection data visualization components introduced there. Now, we will go through a typical slide of things. Now, you might have seen these already in the past. You might be wondering, why are they showing the same thing over again and again and again? And that's by design. There's always new people who are joining on these calls, and we need to explain and provide them the similar assets. So we do this highly intentionally. You might be joining this call for already 5 years in a row, which is awesome. But there's always new people, and we need to help the new people to get access on the latest and greatest assets as well. We have our YouTube channel, Microsoft Community Learning Videos YouTube channel, which was renamed in the spring. We have a LinkedIn group. We actually have a LinkedIn page nowadays as well. We should actually get that one updated there as well. A lot of open source assets across the GitHub locations, but as it might be a bit difficult to find the relevant sample for you, we have implemented this really cool sample galleries, which will make it super easy to find the relevant samples. It doesn't matter if it's a Copilot prompt, or is it a Power Platform app, or is it an SPFX solution for Microsoft Teams or for Microsoft Viva. You just go to one URL and you find the relevant sample for you. So don't start from scratch. Have a look around what's available and then use them for inspiration and ideas. That's a brilliant way of using these sample galleries. And you can contribute as well, which is awesome. And if you're wondering, a lot of URLs, no. Just one. AKMS Community Home is the one URL to remember where you find all of these things, which is really cool. Now, we talked about the YouTube chains. Probably we should actually already start hiding this. Those who are familiar with these chains, they know this already, and the new people, they don't need to know our old name either. But we used to be called in the YouTube as Microsoft 365 and Power Platform Community, but we wanted to actually change the name to be a bit more inclusive, not just about Microsoft 365 and not just about Power Platform, but also other areas, and be more inclusive from the naming perspective. And the channel was renamed back in, I would say, May-ish as Microsoft Community Learning Channel. You'll find it at AKMS Community YouTube. All of the old links should be redirecting there as well if you have any older links available. Now, we have a lot of these community calls, which you might be familiar. This one is the one within the top, which is happening every single Tuesday, 8 a.m. Pacific time, with Microsoft presenters. That means engineers, PMs, cloud advocates, and so on, consultants and architects coming from Microsoft and showcasing you how things have been built. Now, on top of that, we have a lot of community calls where we actually have community demos, and this is highly intentional. So it's not just by Microsoft showing you how we built stuff or what are we shipping. It's also we want to show, or we want to see as a Microsoft employees what you used our products for. So we in the Redmond, within the Microsoft organization, yes, we know how we intended them maybe to be used, and we have some maybe cool flashy demos, but the real world experiences are really coming from your side. You're using our solutions, you're using our applications and building samples and in the real world. And that's what we want to actually also embrace within our community calls. And that's why we have a separate set of Power Platform monthly community call, and then our 7 a.m. Thursday series, which is either Microsoft 365 Power Platform community, Viva Connections SharePoint Framework community call series. And then on top of that, we have the Office Add-ins monthly call, where we have Office add-in PM people talking about what's happening over there. Download recurrent invites at AKMS community calls, and you can always check the latest agendas from the meetup. Now, I talked about the fact that we're highly interested about people presenting within this course, and this is a great opportunity for you, if you're an MVP, to get your MVP renewal things. If you're not an MVP, you want to be an MVP, this is a great way of getting the MVP, because people value your contributions, like within presenting these calls quite a lot when we are reviewing your MVP submissions. Or if you want to just practice presentations within the call, and we will guide you through this process as well. So go to the AKMS community request demo, and you can sign up for a demo on showcasing what you have built, how we're using the products. It might be a learning around, hey, out-of-the-box features, this is how I'm using them. What do you think? It doesn't have to be rocket science. It doesn't have to be anything super, out of this world. Every single person has their unique experiences, their unique ways of approaching problems, their unique way of implementing things. And we want to embrace that diversity and give everybody the opportunity to do their demos within the community calls. So please sign up for those as well. Now, we do have a lot of assets available on getting started in Microsoft Cloud Dev Program, a lot of learning assets, a lot of updates on both sides. No actual detailed update on the Dev Program yet. We're still waiting for what's going to happen with the Developer Program in a long term. So right now, the Developer Program is free, and you're able to do there if you have the Visual Studio subscription. However, if you don't have a Visual Studio subscription, which has a cost, you can get a free single account tenant. And this is probably the easiest way to get started if you don't have that Visual Studio subscription. You actually need to pay for roughly $72 in a year, and you will get your own personal tenant, which will not be dependent, or are you using that for developer usage or not? It will be never ever taken away from you as long as you keep on paying that $72 within a year. So this is a real tenant, real functionality, is not dependent on the Microsoft 365 developer side. So that's basically the easiest way to go around until we'll potentially get back on the developer program, giving you free or low-cost tenants whenever that situation gets clarified. Unfortunately, no details on that one for now. We also do have our Microsoft 365 Power Platform shows, PMP Weekly, yours truly, Waldek, doing that on a weekly basis. We have some news on that one coming out tomorrow. And then Mondays at Microsoft, happening bi-weekly Mondays. We have also the Microsoft 365 Developer Podcast, good ways of staying up to date on what's actually happening. Now, on top of this, we talked about the samples, a lot of samples. During the summertime, we broke to 2,000 samples, which have been contributed by Microsoft and for the community. If you go to the AKMS community samples, a lot of interesting stuff available there for inspiration, for ideas, for a starting point on building your solutions based on Microsoft or Microsoft 365 or Power Platform. Really, really cool stuff. Now, related on all of those samples, you might be finding them, you might be considering, or you might be thinking, what if I want to contribute? And that you might be confused on how would I get started then? That's why we have Sharing is Caring initiative, and we have David Warner directly from LA explaining what this is all about.
Yes, thank you, Vesa. Live from Los Angeles, everybody. We are here to talk about Sharing is Caring. What is it? It is a program that provides live and hands-on guidance to do things like contribute to the community via GitHub. What's GitHub? Well, guess what? We're going to find out together. You're going to see how you can submit samples to things like maybe the script samples or our brand new prompt repos we're going to talk about in just a second because we got some cool badges. It is absolutely free. It's a safe space. It is live. You're going to collaborate with other members of the community. You're going to have fun, and you're going to walk away with, guess what? a fully live, real contribution. And you're going to get a badge for it as long as you opt into our recognition program. So we've got our next one scheduled for September 30th, 9 a.m. Pacific time. Hugo and I will be there to lead you all. So please, please, please join. Go to ak.ms/sharingiscaring to sign up. And then once you do, get involved in the community. We want to recognize you. How? Why? Well, it's the community recognition program. And why? Because we love you and you're doing amazing work and you should be recognized. And these are accredited badges that you can show off to your clients, that you can show off to your management. Show that you're making a difference in the community in a real formal and official way. Associate them to LinkedIn. And guess what? I mentioned that Prompt Pro, and hey, it's September 3rd, so it's Promptember. You can get a Promptember badge, but it's going to go fast at the end of September, and then we get into Promptober. These are limited edition badges, absolutely free. Everybody's chasing them. Get yours today. All you got to do is opt in and sign up and submit a request or a PR to one of our prompt repos, whether it be the Power Platform or the Copilot, which are led by both April and Ravia. So get involved, everybody. Reach out if you have any questions. Absolutely free. ak.ms/community/recognition. Back to you, Vesa, in the Finland studios.
Excellent. Thank you, LA. Thank you, Los Angeles. Thank you, California and US and Helsinki taking over. Really, really cool. Good to have the energy in the room again. Thank you, David, for bringing that in. Now, quick updates on the conferences which are happening. TechCon 365, still one more conference to go this year, this calendar year. Dallas in November 11th to 15th, 2024. Check out TechCon 365. And they had awesome events already happening in Seattle and DC, which hopefully you were able to join. Now, pretty soon, we'll have also the Power Platform Community Conference happening within a few weeks, actually in Las Vegas on September 18th to 20th, 2024. Great opportunities to join and meet up other people in a community and asking questions from the Microsoft and product group on what's happening, how can I get my stuff, how can I, what are we releasing, and all of the latest news on that side. On the European side, then in 2nd to 5th of December, we have the European SharePoint Conference, so European Microsoft 365 Azure SharePoint Conference. It's a really long name, but SharePointEurope.com is the URL where you can get access on that one. On top of this, there's a lot of other community events happening all around the world. Some of them has a cost, some of them are free, some of them can be joined remotely, some of them are in person. But have a look on communitydays.org. There's a lot of individual events happening all around the world, and these are great opportunities to join other people in the Microsoft and other people in the community, and meeting people from Microsoft as well. Quick update on the weekly news. Not that much news on this week. I think especially on Power Platform side, we're waiting for the conference news coming up. So there's going to be a lot of exciting news announced within a few weeks in Las Vegas. And then on other areas, it was relatively slow week. I think we're still catching up on after the summer breaks all around the world within the Northern Hemisphere. Obviously in the Southern Hemisphere, there has not been summer breaks. That's how it works. But a lot of exciting news. What's new on Microsoft Teams, that monthly summaries, those are really good summaries on what's happening all around the different areas within those individual products. And I know we'll have a similar one for Viva and SharePoint coming soon later today as well. Now, before we go to the actual, to get about first, the camera pictures first, we wanted to actually remind everybody on the Copilot prompts option. So this is the option which David actually talked about already, related on getting a Prompt Pro badge. These are community contributed prompts. So to learn how to get started on how to use the Microsoft 365 Copilot or Copilot in general. So AKMS PMP prompt library is the location, and there's screenshots, there's key animations on what's going to happening, and then you can actually go to those individual pages and copy the prompt and test it out by yourself. So it's a really easy way to learn how the Copilot is actually working. And I think the prompt of the week, actually last week, we need to adjust the timings a bit here, was from Reed Smitling. And the prompt was, I'd like for you to act as my executive assistant. Can you tell me my next meeting is, who will be attending, and what time the meeting is all about? Please output following format, and it will actually give you the results as a summary. Of course, you could go to your calendar or asking things, but you could actually elaborate that a bit. And for example, get me the information on the next meeting which are relevant from based on the other emails and documents and all of that stuff within the Microsoft 365. So all of these are really great examples on how the Copilot can be used. Thank you, Reed, on that contribution. Now, before we go to the actual demos of today, let's go through a together mode picture, and I will actually start the computation, and I will flip us to the together mode. Hopefully everything is working fine today. It's been working really reliably, but let's see how this works today. There we go. And let me put the camera on as well. And we're not super pixelated. Mark is there. Stephanie is already dancing on the background. I can see Fabian in the middle. Where am I? Where am I? Where am I? Where am I? Why am I not in the picture? Let's wait a few more minutes. We're not yet recording. There's Tom. Yes, there's Cohen. We're not yet recording. Let's wait a few more seconds, so we'll get a few more people in. Yes, we're pixel perfect today. This is really, really cool. And Elliot is taking it easy on the back road. I guess
your camera's not on, Vesa, by the way.
Oh, it's
That's
not.
why you're see you so.
That actually, thank you, David. That really helps. To have no, it's
Did
not
you
actually
turn it on and off again?
Now, anyway, let's actually start recording. Let's do some hand waving, everybody. Thank you for joining. We'll grab a GIF animation out of this and share it in social media. Thank you for joining on the community calls. Good to be back on the Tuesday calls. Really, really, really cool. Thank you for joining here and for the good to see familiar faces and smiles. Excellent. Great. We'll grab a GIF animation out of that and share that later in social media. But thank you for that one. Now, then it's time to go to the actual demos of today. So typically we have 2 or 3 demos, this time 2 demos, and we'll start with Marc Windle talking about the VSCode extension for SharePoint Embedded and what's news on that side.
All right. Thank you, Vesa. I am sharing my screen. Let me know if you can't see it.
I can see the screen. Take it away.
Perfect. All right. Thank you. So, hey, everybody. My name is Marc Windle. I'm a product manager at Microsoft. And today we're going to talk about how you can get started with SharePoint Embedded using our latest and greatest VSCode extension. Now, if you haven't been introduced to SharePoint Embedded yet, it is a headless platform that lets you bring the power of SharePoint to your custom apps. By building your app storage on SharePoint Embedded, you get core enterprise storage, security and compliance, rich collaboration capabilities, and Copilot powered experiences in your custom applications right out of the box. It's built into the platform. The innovation with SharePoint Embedded is the creation of a new content partition within an M365 tenant that sits next to SharePoint and OneDrive content, but it's separate and it's specific to your custom application. SharePoint Embedded apps use Microsoft Graph APIs to manage what we call file storage containers within M365 tenants. So your app's containers belong to your app, and a tenant can make use of many of these SharePoint Embedded applications. So in fact, we are building our own first-party Microsoft apps on this same platform. For example, if you've used Microsoft Loop before, it stores all of its content on SharePoint Embedded. A little bit of a deeper look into these things that we're calling file storage containers. It's actually like a headless SharePoint partition for your app. Each container, you can kind of think about it like a document library in SharePoint, although it's totally different. It's headless. Your app gets to control the experiences and has full control over those containers. Every container lives in a tenant, and it is a scale unit. So containers effectively hold content. That's where you put your files and other content that you can manage through APIs and through the experiences of your custom applications. Containers are also uniquely permissioned. And so it's not just a scale unit, but they're a security boundary as well. So you can uniquely permission those to users, groups, and even external users. All right. I'm going to quickly cover like the recipe for how you can cook up your own SharePoint embedded application. And then we're actually going to do it using the easy way with the new SharePoint embedded VSCode extension that we've got. So what are the ingredients that go into a SharePoint embedded app? Well, number one, you need an Azure Intra app registration. I bet most of you folks are familiar with that. You're going to need that, of course, in order to call Graph APIs and do anything like that. Then you're going to need a SharePoint embedded container type. So this is a new concept with SharePoint embedded. It's effectively creating an ownership relationship between your Intra app and all of the containers that your app will manage across all of the tenants. So you make one container type per application that you want worldwide. And then you register that container type, which is effectively installing it on any tenant that you want to use your app. And so the directions with VSCode or PowerShell, you can create a container type with your Azure Entra app as the owner, and then you register that container type on M365 tenants. Any tenant that you want to use your custom application, you have to register that container type on them. And that includes your own tenant. So if I'm making an enterprise line of business app that I'm just writing for my own local tenant, you still have to register that container type there. And then once you do that, you can create storage containers on that tenant. And each tenant can have up to 100,000. That's just our current limit. So up to 100,000 of these file storage containers in each tenant. And containers are effectively headless drives and graph. And I'll show you exactly what that looks like later. But within a container, you can use APIs to manage files and other content in there, up to 25 terabytes of storage in each container. So we'll get into some demos, but before I do, I just want to make a quick plug for 2 upcoming in-person events that we're hosting that you can attend to help accelerate your SharePoint Embedded journey. These are completely free single-day sessions where we're going to deep dive on how you can get started and take advantage of the many capabilities built into the SharePoint Embedded platform, including how you can embed Copilot-powered experiences into your custom applications. Myself and several other members of the product group are going to be in New York on September 12th and in London on September 26th. So if you're interested in SharePoint Embedded and learning more and accelerating your journey with SharePoint Embedded, you can register to join us at aka.ms/SPE-events. Okay, so now we're going to get into a demo here. And for that, I'm going to open up Visual Studio Code. And so I do not yet have the extension installed. I just want to show you end-to-end how you can kind of follow that recipe that I went over in terms of like how you can set up your SharePoint Embedded application, and how the updated VS Code extension makes that pretty straightforward and easy for you. So I'm going to go into extensions in VS Code, and I'm going to search for SharePoint Embedded. And the first result that comes up should be here. So there's our SharePoint Embedded for Visual Studio Code. I'm going to install that. With that installed, it pops this SharePoint Embedded SharePoint icon on the left activity pane. Now I'm going to sign into my account, and once I'm signed in, it's actually going to load all of my existing container types in the development pane. And so I already in this tenant have 3 container types. Now I didn't cover it in the recipes, but there's kind of 2 different types of these. One is just standard or paid container types. This is where SharePoint Embedded is a pay-as-you-go consumptive service, and so you pay for what you use. It's $1 per gig and $1 per transaction, and there's some other charges as well that you can learn more about in our documentation. But you can also get started for free with a free trial container type, and so that's what we're gonna create today. So if you have access to even say a developer tenant, I know we were talking about that earlier, you can go ahead and create a free trial container type. You don't need an Azure subscription. If you're setting up a standard or paid container type, you connect it to an Azure subscription, and all of the billing goes through Azure just like that. So with the new Visual Studio Code extension, creating free trial container types is a lot easier. So I do that, and I'm going to enter the display name. So I'll just say like free trial CT, and I'm going to make a new SharePoint Embedded app for this. And so this will actually not only create the container type, but it's also going to make my Azure Entra app registration and configure it and set it up so that it's easy for it to use with SharePoint Embedded. And so it created my app registration in Azure Entra. It created the container type, as you can see, and now it's saying, would you like to register it on the local tenant? I can skip that, but I'm going to register because I want to show you what it looks like to actually get it there and create some containers. So I'll register it on the local tenant. In order to do that, I have to grant admin consent. And so as the consuming tenant, so as the tenant where I'm installing this app on, I have to grant consent as you would expect. And that will let the app create and manage storage containers within it. So I'll open up the consent link. I'll sign in. And here I'm just giving access to selected file storage containers. Now, this allows the app to create and manage storage containers just for that app. I can't go see other containers or OneDrive or SharePoint content with these permissions. Okay, so it takes a minute for that admin consent to actually propagate in Azure systems. Looks like it did, and now I'm going to actually register the container type on my local tenant. Okay, so we created a container, we created an Azure app registration, and we created a container type. We granted admin consent on the local tenant that we wanted to install that container type on, and then we actually registered that container type. And so you can see here it is, our free trial container type. The trial expires in 30 days. And then we're going to refresh this, and looks like it's taking a second. There it goes. Okay. So we have this owning app. So this is the Azure Intra app registration that we made. And here's the local tenant registration. So if I can open this up, now we've got guest apps in here. This just allows you to grant other Intra apps. Could be owned by my same tenant, or it could be owned by the tenant that it's installed. I can grant other Intra apps access to the containers on this tenant. And as well as I've got some containers and recycled containers. And so, like I said, containers are effectively kind of like SharePoint document libraries, but they're headless. Another way to think about it is they're drives in Microsoft Graph. And so we can go like this. We can actually load the containers that we have. And because it's a brand new container type, we don't have any. So I'm going to create a container. I'll just say my container. All right. And it should be, creating one of those brand new file storage containers in this tenant that I installed it on. So here's my container. Awesome. There's a lot more you can do with this updated Visual Studio Code extension, some of the things that I want to show you. And so it gives you better control over, the container type, basic things that you'd expect to be able to rename and delete it. You can copy the container type ID and other properties and stuff like that. Now, also within this owning application, you can run sample apps. And so if you click one of these options, it will actually pull down one of these sample applications from our GitHub, open source GitHub repo, and it will inject all of the configuration parameters associated with your container type into a file in that cloned version of that repo. And then you can immediately just run that sample app right here on your local developer machine. So it's pretty handy to get started with a few clicks. You're running one of our sample apps. You can actually kind of manage your credentials and permissions here and view the app in Azure. What you can also do is set up and run the Postman collection, and that's what I want to show you here. So you can actually just kind of copy the environment settings for Postman. So here I actually don't yet have a client secret for my Azure Intra app registration. So I'm going to make a secret for this. And then it's actually going to put all of the Postman environment settings onto my clipboard. And so that makes it really easy. So now I can go up into Postman and I can import this Postman environment that's specific to my SharePoint Embedded app. All I have to do is paste that in there. And now you can see I have this free trial container type with that new Azure Intra app registration that we made. New container type. Here's all of the other details as well as some credentials that I can use to access. All right, so now I'm going to go into collections. And this is where, if you haven't set up Postman yet, you can download our SharePoint Embedded Postman collection. To do that, all you have to do is go to https://aka.ms/spe-postman. Once you do that, it should also import that Postman collection directly from our open source GitHub repo. So I can expand that. Within the SharePoint Embedded Postman collection, there are two folders. Because this is using Graph APIs, using standard Microsoft identity and sign-in, I can access that with either app-only authentication or delegated authentication where I have an app plus a user. We can go into app-only, and I'm going to get an access token for app-only. So let's just give that a shot. I might have some cache credentials. There it goes. All right, so I've got an app-only access token, and I can go to the list containers endpoint in here. So you can see it's on Graph, and then it's the file storage containers endpoint, and I'm passing in the container type ID. So this gets me all the containers owned by my app. Now, because I'm passing app-only permissions and I created that container in front of you within VSCode using app-only credentials, here it is. If I go now into the delegated folder, I'm going to actually sign in. And so you can access these APIs with app-only or delegated. I'm going to go in with delegated off and approve these delegated scopes. Okay. Pretty straightforward. I've got myself a token, and I have the same set of APIs just for delegated now. And so I can list containers. But what you'll notice here is that I don't see that container because I don't have permissions to it. As I mentioned, each container is uniquely permissioned, and that one that we created with app only off, by default, it doesn't have any humans assigned to it. And so when I come in with a delegated token, this user does not have access to that container. So I can create a container now, and that's a really straightforward post request to this endpoint. And the body of that, we just pass it a display name, a description, and that container type ID. I'll send it off, and we have our second file storage container in here. Now, one thing I want to do now is I told you that containers are pretty much just drives in Microsoft Graph. If I go over to the existing Graph Drive API endpoint, I can actually pass in the container ID of the container that we just created and get that container back as a drive object from Microsoft Graph. So it literally is a Graph drive. And if you have a whole bunch of existing code that interacts with drives and drive items using the Graph APIs, that should just work. It's the same interaction model, which is really handy. For example, we're going to upload a file here. And so I'm going to put in, let's grab a Word document from my local machine. So I've got this add slogans document. And I'm going to put that in as a binary request. And I just need to give it a name in this REST call here. So add slogans docx, pass in the binary, and there we go. We have our first file in this drive, which is actually a SharePoint embedded file storage container. Now, because this is an Office document, I can actually show you quickly some of the collaboration capabilities that we have built in to the SharePoint embedded platform. So when you have a drive item in a drive and graph, it has a web URL property. If I actually open up a browser window and paste that, which your custom application can navigate directly to this link, this is how you can embed rich collaboration and co-authoring experiences from Office directly into your custom application. So you can see I can open up this file in Office, and here I can co-author, mention, and comment, and interact, and use the Office experiences as you've all come to expect from other existing M365 experiences like OneDrive and SharePoint. You can bring that into your own custom application. So that's it for the demos for me. If you have any questions, feel free to put them on the chat, and I'll do my best to answer them. And I'll also put those links to the event and the VSCode extension and where you can learn more about SharePoint Embedded if you're interested in the chat. So thank you very much for the time.
Excellent. Thank you, Mark. Really, really cool stuff. And it's awesome to see the step-by-step evolvement or how we're evolving the tooling. So awesome stuff. This is really great. Thank you for the updates and great demos. And great to see the interest. And don't miss out those events. There's free events in London and New York coming soon. So please check those out. Now, I will steal the presentation. Going back on the demo slide, I feel that I can put my camera on nowadays that I'm actually using the fiber. So let's test if this will work properly now. Those who do not know, there's been a really long time painful thing for me that I've not been able to use the camera that much. Anyway, so thank you, Mark, on getting started with SharePoint Embedded using updated VSCode extension. And next presenter is actually me. So I'm going to talk about introducing the new Viva Connection data visualization components with SPFX. And let's actually move into that side. So we're going to talk about the Viva Connection data visualization components with SPFX. Now, you might not be super familiar with Viva Connection. I will guide you through there a bit on providing the context, what we're talking, and also to kind of mention the different extensibility options within the Viva Connection. SPFX means SharePoint Framework. SharePoint Framework is the most widely used extensibility platform within the Microsoft 365 with tens of millions of monthly active users with custom components built with SPFX across Microsoft Teams, SharePoint, Viva Connection, and all of that stuff. So there's a lot of stuff there. And we keep on investing there. So the key idea here is that rather than introducing always new capabilities, new things, we can build on that existing knowledge and ecosystem, which we have with SPFX, so people can easily transition with their skills to other areas. Now, today, we're going to focus more on the data visualization components. So these are the different card options which are available in Viva Connection using Pro Developer Storyline. But before we go exactly in there, let me guide you through a bit about the overall thinking with the Viva Connection and positioning what we have with the different tooling. So the Viva Connection is considered as the company app. We have the Viva Amplify, which is considered as the communications management app. So that's for the corporate communications, centrally managing those. We have the Viva Engage application, which is for community and social. And then we have the SharePoint, which is the intranet. I'll come back on how do we position this in a second. But this is the employee communication and community section, which has its own licensing and controls and all of that stuff also available within the Microsoft 365. I'll come back on the positioning in a second. If you're not super familiar with Viva Connection, this is really the people-centered and branded employee experience across all of the device types. So the Viva Connection primary objective is to provide exactly the same experience across tablet, desktop, and mobile, as you can see on the right side. Now, on the right side, if you're really familiar with Viva Connection, might be wondering that, wait a minute, I can see the spotlight section in the desktop, but it's not available in tablet and mobile. Those are all getting updated, of course, as we move along and roll out new features. But the basic idea here is that as true directly within the Microsoft Teams or directly, that is an option nowadays as well, you can easily access your tools and apps from one centralized location. So rather than having to go to those app section in Teams or trying to remember those URLs where I can get the latest information about, for example, let's say I need to have a vacation request quote or my payslip details or whatever stock details, I can always go to the Viva Connection app and I can easily access the relevant information for me. So the application itself is customized by the organization. So there's branding capabilities, options, all of that available. And then in the persona level, you can actually personalize that as well. So you can select which are the cards which are visible within a mobile, in a tablet, or in a desktop, just making it relevant for you. Really kind of a lot of flexibility in there. Now, you might be wondering that, okay, so wait a minute. We have intranet as a SharePoint. We have Viva Connection as the company app. I don't understand. What does that mean? Well, we position this in a way that the intranet is really the pixel perfect storytelling about your company. And that's the whole company and searching the whole company. And really tailored news for me is there. There's a lot of cool capabilities and information which you can access directly from intranet. But having that pixel perfect storytelling in all of the different devices might be a bit difficult. And also, bundling in the me information, the company information, the unit organizational information, everything else within a SharePoint landing page might be a bit difficult. So therefore, the positioning and idea here is that we have the Viva Connection app. Viva Connection, by the way, is free. It's available for free for anybody within Microsoft 365. If you have an E3 tenant, it's available for you. But that's really up the positioning where it's more about the personalness, more about you. It's your application. You as an individual can access the relevant information and accessing the employee experiences, the HR information, the again, vacation information, basic information, all of that stuff. So again, more about the me and myself rather than the company, which is the pixel perfect company branding. That's kind of, and of course they're connected, they're overlapping. The same news can be published and will be published in both of the sites, but they kind of have a different purpose from a positioning perspective. The cool thing about Viva Connection also is that it adapts, like I said, in a different UX and layouts. So the new way of doing the experiences or the even extensibility is that we're using these cards, which are then adapting based on the layouts and based on the devices what you're using. So you can actually, in this case, you can see the imaginary Contoso airline layout within a mobile tablet and in desktop. And this is the imaginary Contoso retail layout within all of these different options. So you can easily see that it's adapting. You're able to do the branding. You're able to target the individual cards based on whatever is relevant for the individual, but also what's relevant for the company. Now, from an extensibility perspective, as customers quite often and developers are looking into, okay, what does it mean for me? What can I do? There's 3 different models to do cards and 3 different models of doing implementations and adjustments within the Viva connection. There's the no-code option, which basically means that you are linking directly to other teams' application, Power Apps, or other teams' application in Microsoft Teams or web links. And those are basically then those cards are dynamically showing the relevant information and the images and icons from the target application. We have the low-code option, which is the card designer. A lot of innovation and investments on that one as well. So making it super easy to build low-code, not pro-code, low-code capabilities, hitting APIs like Microsoft Graph, surfacing information, or other APIs. What about Copilot Studio integration in the card designer? Yes, we're working on that as well. So there's a lot of interesting scenarios here in the future. Copilot integration directly within there in the low-code level. Definitely coming. And then the final option is the Pro Developer option, where you're using SPFX, which is SharePoint framework, to implement the application. You can then acquire these solutions directly from ISVs, from the store, or you can do in-house development using that familiar SharePoint framework extensibility platform, which can be used to extend SharePoint, Microsoft Viva, Microsoft Teams, Outlook, Microsoft 365 app, and in future also Copilot, which we actually announced that it's coming already in build. Really, really cool stuff. More on that one in the future sessions. Now, as part of our SPFX 1.19, we already released the line chart option, which will basically give you the option to implement custom cards, which are then connecting to the backend systems and surfacing relevant information. It could be stock price. That's probably the most simple example, but quite commonly people would be asking on, okay, so I want to have the monthly sales as an individual card, and I can easily access that through my Microsoft Teams directly with Viva Connection dashboard, relevant business, relevant information for me based on my role with audience targeting, and we can easily do that. And now with SPFX 1.20, we are then rolling out all of the rest of the different chart types and capabilities around the Viva visualization components. And this is what the visualization components is all about. So now you are able to build more dynamic dashboards directly within the Viva connection. In the future, actually also in SharePoint, I'll come back on that one later in the autumn as well, but you're able to use these cards more efficiently across the Microsoft 365 to build engaging, personalized, role-based dashboards, which are surfacing relevant information from your backend. And again, you might be saying, well, I can do that with Power BI. Yes, absolutely, 100% you can. But again, we're trying to implement a dashboard where we are providing relevant information for the role, not just about the sales, not just about the stock price, not just about the individual things. One dashboard where the relevant information is coming from multiple backends, multiple locations, and then we are able to target that based on a role. So different dashboards for managers, different dashboard for employees. In the future, you can imagine dashboard also being individual components in SharePoint. If you have SharePoint divisional intranets, you can do that as well over there. There's a lot of options and innovation happening within this area. Cool. And we're looking into, there's the interesting Copilot extensibility options coming up on here as well. Not yet that time to talk about it in here. There's some bits and pieces shown here and there, but we'll get more details when the time is right. Now, 1.20, SPFX 1.20 GA is happening in September, so that is happening this month within the upcoming weeks. We're heading to release candidate, I think, next week, if I remember correctly. So you're able to start using these cards already relatively fast. But let's have a look on how that looks in practice in a desktop view, and then I'll show how it looks in tablet and mobile view in a second as well. But let me actually come in here. So again, I'm in my Microsoft Teams experience. So this is imaginary Contoso experience, and again, the Viva connection can be easily accessed directly from the left menu. The cool thing about the Viva Connection is that you can personalize that with your company branding, all of that stuff. You can make it named as your company and all of that as needed, or something else. You can come up with a code name for Viva Connection, or you can keep it as Viva Connection. Definitely an option as well. But then in here, you're able to actually brand the things, and you can see the individual card visualization components being presented in a dashboard. This is just an imaginary data which could be coming from backend. I'll show all of how this is implemented in a second. But then individual visualization components can be adjusted. They extend. They can be adjusted to be a smaller sections, so they can render in a medium or small format. Right now, we only have a medium and large options. We're looking into having multiple other options there as well. So there's a lot of interesting capabilities in the future pipeline as well. But you can imagine that you can build really engaging dashboards and relevant information per user, per the role, based on the new options which are available, and much more engaging dashboards as well. So they're not static. It's a dynamic data which is getting loaded from the backend directly and showing the relevant information directly within there. And then it's up to the developer to decide what happens when I click the card. So in my case, these are just pretty dummy cards. So if I click the card, actually nothing happens. But we could just as well redirect the user to the backend system. We could redirect, surface more additional information in the quick view, or whatever we want to do actually based on the business requirements. But there's a lot of flexibility for developers to then start doing integrations and UX level adjustments on the cards on top of this. Good. Now, how were these actually implemented? So the cool thing about SPFX 1.19 already is that we actually introduced the new component types. And I can actually show this one since we do have some time. Let me go in here. And let me go in the PMP folder. I'm just going to zoom in a second. I'm going to do here call demo. And then if I go to call demo and run the SharePoint framework Yeoman generator, of course, you could use absolutely 100% the brilliant community provided SharePoint Framework Toolkit, which has thousands and thousands of downloads already, which is a great option. I'm going to use now just the Yeoman generator in here directly within the command line. There's a lot of options how you can do these things. But as part of the 1.19, we introduced this data visualization card template, and that's actually giving you the starting point with the line chart. So line chart ACE. And then you can modify that line chart ACE, as in the adaptive card extension, to actually not draw line charts, to draw quick pies or donuts or with bars. And implementing those is incredibly easy. So let's have a look on here, for example, the bar chart. And I will open up the card view. And we can basically see what's available. Let me actually zoom in one more. Bar chart, in this case, we are rendering a few different bar series, and this is the bar chart. So that's a 1 series, that's a 1 series, and that's a 1 series, and three series. And then we're basically saying, for the card, please draw a bar chart card view. And we are providing those individual values as a parameter. Now, what does that look like? Let's actually have a look on that one as well. So let me actually get in here. That is actual implementation of that particular chart card over there. So we are able to then introduce as many series of as needed, and depending on how the things are being rendered, it's either rendering the full view, what we're actually providing, or then it's rendering only a few of the months as a limitation, because again, it cannot squeeze the information in a super small area. But super easy to actually implement from a code perspective. You just provide the needed backend, needed data. And in my case, all of this data is obviously hard-coded, just as well as we're talking about code. I could be able to connect to my SAP, my sales system, LOB, whatever system is where your business data is available. You can connect to those and then surfacing that information directly within a chart card format. And for all of these rendering options, there's a lot of the individual options related on the coloring, related on the charts, options, and all of that. So simple example, if I now go to the pie chart, and the actual pie chart implementation, which is that one over there, we can actually see that we are able to define, for example, things like color, is the label available, and yes or no, what are the individual, obviously, values within the pie chart, and then it's summarizing that individual thing available. The same applies obviously to the donut chart as well. So there's a lot of flexibility about the branding, about the terms and labels and numbers and all of that within here as well. So really, really cool options. Right now, all of this, as mentioned, is a pro developer story. So you cannot actually take into use any of the visualization components within a non-pro developer way. So this requires a pro developer, somebody in-house or a consultant or an ISV to implement these things as a developer. But a lot of new opportunities to align on things. And of course, we would be able to align all of the colors, the theming colors automatically, and then adapt whatever is the themes which are assigned to the Viva connection and make them look even more prettier. It's almost low code. Thank you, Paul, on the comment on the chat. Now, something what I kind of teased already, I'm not going to actually do the live demo on updating the code because, well, it works in a workbench. There's nothing new over there. But something to be aware of what we're also looking, I don't think we talked about this one too much. We are also looking into having a web part, which will enable you to create instances of this dashboard in SharePoint. Again, just maximizing the value of the card framework and card options in the Viva connection. In the future, you do not need to have a Viva connection even enabled, but you're still able to use the actual cards within the SharePoint. So if you're more into the SharePoint intranets and SharePoint experiences, you're able to do that. Today, there is a Viva connection web part, but there is no flexible card web part where you can assign whatever cards you want to be actually rendered there. We're looking into different options how to make that happen, but that's actively being worked on right now within our development team. So a lot of interesting area in there. But a lot of cool things happening and cool things which are available with the visualization cards, and they are really easy for developers to actually adapt, and we can easily control the actual technical implementation details. And again, with SharePoint Framework, you can easily connect to the backend, to the APIs in Azure. You can connect to multiple APIs and then combine the data and then render that directly within the dashboard. Now, I did want to actually show also the tablet experience and also the mobile experience. I will click the mobile to actually go there. So you can see that both the tablet experience and the mobile experience is adapting to the card visualization things as well. And of course, it looks almost the same as in the desktop. The only kind of a difference right now within the mobile and the desktop, currently as this was recorded, there is no spotlight section in the top. We're looking into multiple options and design options on that one. Those are all coming to dashboard, the desktop and mobile as well. And with a spotlight, just to kind of recap, spotlight is this new section which is not yet explicitly shown into top or as an individual tab for mobile and mobile and tablet experiences. But you can already see individual cards exactly rendered in the same way in both sides, and you can then click a link, access directly deep linking to the Microsoft Teams or the applications within the whatever is the business case from any device in the world. I can openly say personally, it took me a while to get used to the Viva connection. Nowadays, I tend to use my tablet when I'm sitting in the living room after working, watching news, doing things, and then something pops in my mind. I can then use my tablet to easily go and double check some relevant information directly from the Viva connection rather than accessing the multiple applications and what's happening and all of that. I can just access a lot of relevant information and capabilities directly in Viva connection. So it's been a really nice experience for me as well. Cool. Now, quick reference points on that one. Resources for data visualization components, SPFX 1.20, still in beta, going to release candidate, I think next week, if I remember the exact date correctly. I should know because I'm responsible for releasing some of that stuff, but probably double check these things when we do these demos, but still going GA still in September unless there's any last minute surprises within the code set. Tutorial on getting started is available. We'll add all of these links. Thank you, David, on sharing those in the chat already. We'll add them in the video notes as well. An existing sample demonstrating options is available. The sample there is exactly what I showed today, which is showing all of those different options, which you see on the right side as well. So you're able to easily start to use that. You don't need to change any code even. You can just deploy that, compile and deploy that to your tenant, developer tenant or test tenant, or if you want to test around, and you can see that nice looking look and feel available. But that's it for the demo. Thank you for the interest, and good to see the comments in the chat. Thank you for that one. Oh, that was actually good. That's a really funny picture within the chat related on the card timings, because they're GIF animations, or they're animated. Thank you, David, for sharing that one. Now, so I guess it's time to wrap up. We're 5 minutes on the hour. So thank you, Mark, on doing a great demo on the SharePoint Embedded using the Visa Code extension. It's definitely easier to use the code extension versus just using the APIs, because of course you can absolutely use MicrosoftViva APIs to operate with SharePoint Embedded. But it's cool to see that we're trying to, or we're not trying, we are making it easier to adapt these new capabilities with Visual Studio Code extensions. Next week, we have at least 2 demos. There might be a third one. We're still negotiating. There's a lot of demos in the pipeline. A lot of teams are highly interested on taking advantage of their goals. But on 10th of September, we'll at least have Anshul Yethwani talking about building Teams AI-based messaging extension as compiler checker using Azure OpenAI. A lot of buzzwords over there, but technically how to use Teams AI together with Azure OpenAI directly in Microsoft Teams as a compliance checker. It's a really, really, really cool solution, which is available as an open source solution for you to learn how to use the AI-based implementation. The second demo will be me again, related on 1.20 SharePoint Framework 1.20 capabilities, which is introduction. You bring your own quick view HTML support capabilities and Viva Connection ATs. So that's something really, really cool in 1.20 as well, where you are no longer limited on adaptive cards, so you can actually render much more comprehensive UX within the Viva Connection quick view, not on a card view, but on a quick view. And I'll talk about details on what that means next week. Now, in the meanwhile, please take advantage of all of our different options which are available to engage with the community. We do have our official Discord server. We now have already 2,200 members there, and it's cool to see the activities on that side. This is not really intended to compete with any of the other forums. It's more on, hey, we try to be there where people are. So we definitely want to answer questions in here as well, and find the one and kind of facilitate a location where people can go and help each other within the community. Now, related on these calls, please, if you have a few minutes, this doesn't take long. It's only a 1 minute or 2 minute, but it's super important for us to know that what do you think about these calls? What would you like to see? Are you happy about the call? Positive feedback, definitely always welcome. Constructive feedback, definitely welcome as well. We are creating these calls for you, and we want them to be available for you and for the worth of your time in the future as well. But that's it for this one. The recording will be available within the YouTube channel. You cannot access the recording directly from chat. I think nowadays the settings are that when you move the call away from the call, you are no longer even in the chat. So you can no longer access the chat, unfortunately. If you can see the recording message there, you cannot access the recording directly from there. We are publishing the recording in YouTube. If you're subscribed on that channel, you will get notified directly in YouTube when it's available, and you're able to watch the recording directly in there. That's always 24 hours after the call available. And you can follow us on social media to stay up to date. But thank you for this one, September 10th. Next call on this series on Thursday this week. We also have the SharePoint Framework community call, which has cool pro developer storytelling on that side. You can see all of the calls at AKMS community/calls. But that's it for this one. It's cool to see my video streaming, everything working properly. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Thank you for being part of this community. Please keep the feedback coming. We are here for you, and let us know how we can help you to succeed. Thanks, everybody. Cheers. Bye-bye.